Boy, it can be tough being a parent in an animated world, especially a mother, what with the number of times your main job is to be a constant nag to your man-child of a husband, or killed off for emotional motivation of the protagonist, or just because the filmmaker only wanted to deal with a single parent character. Which isn't to say that every mother character that eventually dies can't also be important or interesting, or that there aren't series with two parents that are more or less equally competent, but those would be much smaller lists. Still, I thought it was going to be tough to find moms in animation that not only remained alive, but had enough presence to display their own personality or even have their own story arc. Also, loved and took care of their kids and stuff. But I was able to find quite a bit of those, which does help when you open the margin to include television, movies, and anime, so much so that an honorable mentions list would be quite extensive, and one could make arguments for many of them to be considered some of the best. That said, here are my personal favorite mothers of animation.
Little bird, fly through my window.
Queen Moon from Star Vs. A character who seemed at first to just be a stuck-up, over-disciplining mother who wasn't even there a lot, is gradually revealed to be an anxious and protective action badass. But it's really because I'm liking the current dynamic between Moon and Star. It seems like the two are always at odds. Not unusual for a teenager and mother, but even then, Moon and Star have very diverging personalities. Initially, it was just the standard Star makes a rash decision with consequences, and hesitates telling because she doesn't want to get in trouble. But after Star has learned more about the kingdom, now they're fighting about old traditions and potential changes and how to deal with villains. Things that matter. And with the increased number of episodes dedicated to Moon specifically, we see more parallels between the two and that they are able to grow and learn from each other. Star gradually understanding about responsibilities and consequences, and Moon coming to terms with her monster racism.
How is he not a monster? Well, dear, he's rich.
So it's able to show that teenage parent friction, while over time showing them coming closer together on equal footing as rulers. And of course, nothing bonds mothers and daughters more than frolicking like idiots because of amnesia.
I don't know.
Me neither!
Little bird, fly through my window.
Jumbo from Dumbo. Jumbo may only be in the first act of the film, but while she's there, it's basically her movie. Nearly every scene is from her perspective, every scene is dripping with the most precious mother-child moments, and also conjures up so much empathy. We feel the anticipation and the disappointment as she waits for the delivery, the impatience and the joy when it finally arrives. Our own insecurities reflected in Dumbo's giant ears makes us grateful when she silences those judgmental ninnies. And we do wish our mothers could take care of our bullies like this, if only the consequences weren't so severe. Her being taken away is heartbreaking and traumatic, almost like the exact emotions you feel at losing a parent, but without having to kill them off. And Baby Mine speaks for itself, an emotional train wreck of happiness and sadness, and makes the final shot a bit inexplicable, but an enormously happy one.
Little bird, fly through my window.
Tino's mom from The Weekenders. This one's really simple, I just think she's really funny. Every time she and Tino talk, it's 90% sarcasm, and I love every minute of it.
Could you describe this vegetable?
Why, yes, I can. It's blue.
There's an extra degree of comfort and codependency when your primary live-in family is just two people, which is reflected in how they communicate and spend time together, which is really cute. And because she's so easy to talk to, she's usually the go-to authority figure that gives his group of friends advice when they get into trouble. But it's mostly just because her dialogue is fun.
You want me to leave now so you could say bad words?
That'd be great, thanks.
Little bird, fly through my window.
Linda from Bob's Burgers. Linda gratefully breaks the trope of fathers being the only one in the relationship that can be crazy. While Bob is low-key, not very social, and content in very simple things, Linda is a loud, excitable dreamer and drama queen. To Linda, everything is either the best ever or the end of the world. She loves trying new things and treating her kids like they're her best friends, to some of their joy and some of their annoyance. But despite some hysterics, she's actually quite responsible. people. She's extremely funny and would go to the end of the earth for her kids, but she can also get carried away with her own fantasies, frequently pushing others to go along with them regardless of their feelings. But then her kids all have such strong, defiant personalities, some more so than others, so sometimes they need a borderline crazy person to keep them in line, and sometimes vice versa.
Little bird, fly through my window.
Kala from Tarzan. Kinda like Dumbo, Tarzan really starts out as Kala's movie between losing a child, discovering a lost one, and going toe-to-toe with a homicidal jaguar while protecting a baby. She's a constant character throughout the whole thing, and due to the time skip, you really get a touch of the full spectrum of parenthood. Overprotective, empathetic teacher, casually playful, worrisome when the child starts to grow apart, and then eventually letting go. The scene in the treehouse is such an emotional powder keg. This movie is so underrated.
Little bird, fly through my window.
Helen Parr, or Elastigirl. Yeah, in broad strokes, it is another one of those mom keeps the house together while the dad goes and does something stupid. But aside that Bob is still able to be caring and very relatable, Helen still gets her chance to shine. We get a glimpse of the capable, witty, headstrong hero that she was, how she goes above and beyond to make sure that her family is together and safe, and she gets a good chunk of the middle all to herself, pulling off impressive physical feats and espionage and rediscovering the hero that she was. And what's uniquely impressive is how unflinchingly honest she's able to be with her children about the danger they're in, while still being comforting and encouraging. And just as much as anyone, I am greatly anticipating to see how this character will develop further in the sequel, especially when she's given more chance to operate independently.
Little bird, fly through my window.
Helen Morgendorfer from Daria. Even though it's soaked in the 90s, virtually every topic about the drudge of high school and teen life is just as relevant today, and it's just as funny and poignant.
Isn't there any time when how you look doesn't affect how you're judged?
When you donate an organ.
Helen is a semi-realistically flawed mother as a career woman struggling to balance family and work. She doesn't always have the time or patience to deal with a situation as much as is necessary, or even when she's present, how to best communicate with her very difficult teenage daughters. But it doesn't stop her from trying to do her best, and you always know that she's coming from a good place, even if she has to be reduced to bribes.
Is this your way of acknowledging how much more mature and trustworthy I am?
It's my way of saying if you won't do it, I'm sending you both with a babysitter.
At the front of the series, she does demonstrate a lot of frustration at just not being able to understand why Daria acts the way she does, and does what she thinks will eventually make her happy. But as the series goes forward, she does start to truly understand her and respects the strong, opinionated person that she is, as well as frequently give her some solid pieces of advice. And if that's not enough, watch her be an absolute boss when Daria and the school butts heads over a controversial art piece, at least after the school was a massive prick about it.
You took my daughter's poster from her, altered its content, exhibited it against her will, and are now threatening discipline because you claim she defaced her own property, which you admit to stealing? That, Ms. Lee, are you familiar with the phrase violation of civil liberties? And the phrase big fat lawsuit?
Little bird, fly through my window.
Sachiko from Erased. A bit ironic since the catalyst of this series is her murder in the first episode, but once her son Satoru unleashes his never-explained rewind powers, he's able to go back in time to when he's 12 to try and prevent her and others' potential deaths. Sachiko is cool and collected and always feels in charge of every situation. You know, except for the one where she died. She's one of those mothers that always seems to psychically know what their kids are getting up to. However, she never interferes, but she is always there. When Satoru finally tells her about some of what he's been up to, thankfully breaking the kids are in danger but never tell the parents trope. Aside that she praises his bravery in doing the right thing, not condemning him for daring to put his life in danger, now she's actually able to help him. And being another case where the mother and son are all each other have, they have that vague line between family and best friend. But even when he's an adult, she'll drop everything and come halfway across the country to take care of him. And if you know the series, you know that she takes that to the nth level after a certain development. Parents, turns out if you ask, they can be really helpful.
Little bird, fly through my window.
Mrs. Brisby from Secret of Nim. Thank you guys for reminding me that this existed. Despite how good Secret of Nim is, it's not a nostalgic property for me, so sometimes I forget it exists. It's one thing to protect your kids when you're a literal superhero, but what if you're a tiny field mouse and the only way to save your sick child is to confront owls and cats? This movie is a marathon of Mrs. Brisby bracing unknown terrors one after the other for the sake of saving her family and sometimes just to help others, with no particular set of skills except her own willpower. It is one of the most genuine depictions of true courage. The only reason she's not number one, at least by my criteria, is that there's a limited number of scenes of her interacting with her children. So the number one mother is, of course, it's Hannah. I have sung my praises for wolf children loud and frequently. How would you react if your child could change species at will? I guarantee it probably wouldn't be as patient and level-headed as this, even while she has no idea what she's getting into. Doctor or vet, it's still funny. There's an excellent balance between showing her struggles and sacrifices, but also her love and joy. Just seeing her tackle every single conflict with such endurance and uplifting attitude. Then there's the extra dimension of focusing on the child characters, seeing how their personalities and reflections on what they are change as they get older and how Hannah responds to that. As if I haven't said it enough, Wolf Children is family love and pathos in a gorgeous package, and I can't recommend it enough. So tell me your favorite moms of animation. Comment, like, subscribe, etc., and you stay shiny, Animaniacs.
Little bird, fly through my window. Little bird, fly through my window. Find molasses candy through my window. My sugar lump, fly through my window. My sugar lump, find molasses candy.